This is part 4 of work to the classic Alfa. After first repairing and removing the wing, I can now repair inside and show you where filler has been applied. No idea why filler has been used here. Any guesses, please comment below. The inner rear valance has been made before and is not original. I can now remove the remainder of the original wing, as should have been done when the later replacement wings were installed. I have cut a piece as a flange on this section, but have intentionally left it much wider. The reason for this is it will keep the edge straight, which would otherwise bend like a banana due to the welding shrinkage. Once cut off to the correct width, it has remained straight. Sometimes very rusty cars like this just fall apart by themselves, which can be a real time saver. With the wing, inner and outer valance removed, the rear panel is a bit floppy, which can be a bit daunting. It's the wing that carries a lot of the strength and will help realign things. I considered welding in a support framework but decided it wasn't practical. With the boot floor offering no helping support, it might as well be removed. Access has now been vastly improved and I've started removing the remains of the old floor. Where I've cut the old floor, I have left 15mm or so of flange. This is a strong area to make the weld. I've overlapped the panel and clamped it where it measures the same as the old one. I can now scribe a line and cut the new floor. I've zinc primed the area for the new floor to be welded. I've already welded repairs to the rear wing before I removed it, but I can now see some rust that needs to be addressed. I'm going to use my outside blasting setup as the wing won't fit in my cabinet. The black sheet I use is silage sheet in the thickest form available. I've got a 1028 Hodge Klemco blast pot and an old Broom & Wade WR125. 125 CFM, and it still provides this CFM at 100 psi. I've had to spend a lot of time fixing the road compressor as it was in a bad state when I bought it. It was barely providing 50 CFM when I got it and running on 3 cylinders. I found another diesel pump from the US, replaced the injectors, replaced the compressor and oil filters, replaced the lift pump and filter housing. However, the biggest issue was the suction unloader. The air pipes to operate the unloader were going in the wrong places, which meant the valve letting air into the compressor was permanently shut. It's a 2-stage rotary vane compressor working in the same way as your air tools. The media I use is glass grit in medium coarse form. As I recycle the grit, with each use it gets smaller and does a better job of removing rust. The coarse stuff is okay at removing the bulk of the rust, but you need fine grade material for getting into all the small pockets of corrosion. You lose about a quarter of each bag you feed into the pot each time, which makes it a cheap way to blast. I buy a pallet of grit at a time and that lasts me a couple of years. I think it was £4 or £5 for a 25 kilogram bag last time. I've brushed some Hydrate 80 on the inside areas of the wing for some rust protection and ground off the floor weld. You can't buy this next panel, so I'm having to make it. I'm just trying to make this in a valance, and you can see I've had a couple attempts at getting the fold in the right place. So far it's fairly simple, just a folded section on top there and there, and then a fold there. But the next part is trying to fold this bottom edge, and I can see roughly, if I was to line it up like that, I could scribe a line down, but the trouble is when this needs to come in, it's too far out, and when it comes in it will also go up. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm scribing a measurement line and have marked 6 places in which to measure down. I fitted the outer valance to set the correct wing position and remove the panel I'm making. I can now measure down at each of the 6 points to the fold and transfer that measurement to my new panel. Then it's just a case of folding along the line. It now fits nicely. There was just a small section at the front that was missing from the new inner arch to join the 2 panels. I noticed at the beginning of this project that the wing sits proud of the door in one section. This is a really easy fix. All I have to do is stretch the flange to bring it down with the stretcher. Plug weld holes have been punched in the wing and zinc rich primed. I've double checked the door is plumb with the wing and parallel with the sill. It all looks fairly good. The boot lid is on and in the correct location. This sets the wing position via the lid gaps. Before welding the wing arch, checks in alignment need to be made as you can move it in and out. I also need to check the wing height against the rest of the car. We don't want anything twisted. For this, I've got my reference points as 2 bolt holes in the rear scuttle panel, and I'm using a digital protractor with a 0 reference option. I need to make sure the setup is square to the body. Moving it to the wing edge, now it's 0.15 degrees out. A little nudge of the wing brings it level. The length of the wing matches nicely with the boot lid on the off side, but it's not good on the near side. That will need to be addressed by lengthening the wing when I do the near side. Something I'm not impressed with is the quality of the new rear panel. If you compare the angle and radius of the top fold where it needs to nicely meet the boot lid, it's way off. To correct this, I'm probably going to have to cut off this horridly formed top edge and make another one that fits the boot lid. It's probably half a day's work to correct and shouldn't have been necessary. Junk new panels are all too common, but the people selling them know most of the time you have got no other option but to make them work. Sometimes I decide to make my own panels over bought ones. It shouldn't be the case that I can hand make a panel more accurate than a mass-produced press panel. Until next time, cheerio.